Welcome to the final video in this series. So far we've explored IPI's 4-step protocol for dealing with online attacks, and you've thought about how you could make use of this protocol in your own newsroom. The survey you did of your journalists' experiences should have helped you form a better understanding of both their experiences online and the impact that online abuse and harassment is having on them. But this is not just useful information. It is also the first step in creating a newsroom culture in which such attacks are no longer simply accepted as a normal part of the job, but instead are not tolerated. Journalists interviewed by IPI all said that knowing that their newsrooms did not expect them to simply toughen up was in itself useful. Recognising that online abuse and harassment is a workplace issue is a big and important step. You then did an audit of your existing systems to review what your organisation already does to safeguard staff and combat online abuse. And you may have identified some existing good practice that you can build on. Perhaps you found that some journalists already have a small informal WhatsApp group, for example, where they exchange experiences. Properly supported, this might become a central pillar in your new protocol. You might decide to offer some trauma risk management or TRIM training to key members of the group, for example, in order to strengthen it. You also reviewed who does what in your organisation, and you should by now have more idea about who will be responsible for preventing attacks and who might form part of a response team. Having learned more about how to prevent and recover from attacks, you may well have identified gaps in your institutional expertise or training needs that will need to be addressed. And then you came up with a blueprint, first for prevention and then for recovery. You mapped out how you would ideally like things to be. You made a note of what things, structures and systems you would need in order to respond effectively to the threat of online harassment and abuse in the future. You identified who would need to do what in your organisation to put this into practice. And you also identified any training or other resource implications of this plan. These prevention and recovery blueprints will now form the basis for planning your next steps. So, looking at the blueprints, what do you already have in place? And how can this be strengthened or built upon? Thinking about the things, structures and systems that you have identified as being needed, what are your priorities going to be? What can you put in place quickly and what will take more time? Who will be responsible for implementing these new things, structures and systems, and what's their deadline? What training needs have you identified and how can you manage these within the resources that you have? Are there any possible alliances or collaborations with others that might help you? And how will you communicate your plans for a new protocol with your staff? Because if you don't communicate your plans, your staff won't know about the protocol and it won't be worth the paper it's written on. Please do explore the IPI website as much as you can. You'll find it full of useful information and resources. And I hope by now you have a clear blueprint, a roadmap for how to create a robust and bespoke protocol that will work for your organisation, and one that will make you feel confident that you can prevent online harassment and abuse, minimise the harm it can cause, and quickly recover from attacks that do take place. Thank you for listening.